All right. Hello, everyone. Just write in the box where you're from. Utah. Hi. Um, and how you're feeling today. So I'm gonna just start by sharing with everyone the most common response I give to people when they ask me a really difficult question uh, on Insight Timer or in meditation school, which is maybe you should get a therapist. And I say that sincerely because people ask me really, and some of you have asked me really deep, intense questions that I feel would be unfair if I just said, do this, do that, focus on your breath. Some deep traumas, some energies we really need help with, and sometimes professional help. And so I brought my favorite therapist with me today, Dan Loney. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, hi everyone. Yeah, thanks for bringing me on, David.
Absolutely. And so let's do this as everyone's coming in. New York, I love it. As everyone's coming in, I'm going to unmute you all just for a moment, just so you can say hi, since we've been in social isolation now for over a week. And so you know you're not alone. So I'm going to unmute everyone. Just say hi. One, two, three.
Hi.
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 Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, Dan?
Hello.
Hey, David.
Hi.
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 Hello.
Mom.
Hi.
So I have that like Internet
Hey.
Explorer, I have it.
Oh, I love that. That always happens. There's always a dog. There's always something going on. The pizza guy's here. Oh wait, Dan, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Here we go. Cool. So, Dan is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He sees clients all day long. And when I met you, Dan, you were working with the homeless, which is something that we discussed when you were a guest on the Energy Matters podcast.
Yeah.
So for those of you who want to know all about Dan's life, that will be a different time, but you can go listen to the Energy Matters podcast where he was a guest and we talk about a lot of what he does. And today I brought him here because I wanted him to share his expertise on dealing with anxiety and dealing with fear and whatever other energies you've been experiencing. So first of all, Dan, maybe we could just start by
Yeah.
you sharing a little bit about what it is that you do with people, and then we could dive into some fear.
Yes. And yeah, I want to make a disclaimer. I know it says how to heal anxiety and fear, and we've got 45 minutes. Obviously, we're not going to heal all your anxiety and fear, but hopefully this can be a good start.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work today will even just be putting things out in the open because, yeah, anxiety and fear can be crippling to the point where we don't even know what we're experiencing and we just keep that to ourselves. So, yeah, that's where we'll start. And yeah, I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. I'm based in San Diego, California. A lot of people don't think there's much anxiety in San Diego. Believe it or not, there is. Everyone looks at San Diego and they're like, oh, that must be so nice. But yeah, we just deal with everything like you guys do. And I do a lot of, it's called schema therapy, schema work. So different lenses that we've grown to wear on life. And those schemas do form anxiety. Schemas come from when we're really young, generally, when we experience something fairly traumatic or repeated small instances of trauma and overdeveloped healing or coping responses to those. And often we don't even know what they are. So I help bring some of the lenses to light and we play with them and we see where these beliefs have developed, where these experiences have formed meaning in our life. And yeah, from there, we help heal them step by step, but it's a slow process.
Yeah, and the schemas are incredibly fascinating.
Just didn't know if you
Oh,
could hear me or not.
that's weird that we could hear one person they bled through. That was strange. So the schemas are incredibly fascinating, and we talked about this when you were on my show. Um, they're like these, the way you described it, like lenses that we see the world through. And for example, one was like self-aggrandizement. Well, maybe just go over a few of them, just so the people who haven't listened to that episode know what they are.
Yeah, I mean, one could even that's coming up big right now is vulnerability to harm or illness. This is if you've grown up in a household in which your parents have told you, yeah, don't go outside, strangers are bad. So you form this idea in your head that the world is a very scary place. So yeah, any sort of sickness, you and there's good reason to be quarantined and to not touch things now, obviously, but that schema can just manifest itself 10 times as much as it needs to. So it's just distortions that we have. So it can be an abandonment schema, mistrust, abuse, defectiveness or shame. Those are some popular ones. Subjugation, if you grew up with parents that were always belittling you, you've kind of learned to subjugate yourself to other people. And yeah, we have different coping responses with that as well. Sometimes we just become subjugated. Sometimes it goes the opposite way and we start belittling everyone else and we're the bully, but that's actually because we've grown up with the lens and that's how we've coped. So that's an example, a little snapshot of it.
Yeah, and so you can go in either direction. Like you said, you could become the bully or you could become the victim, and it's the same schema or it's the same kind of lens.
Or you go in the middle and you freeze and you avoid things and you avoid the idea of being subjugated altogether, which still reinforces the schema.
So for everyone here, Dan, how do they know what schemas they have? How do they know which ones they need to work on?
That's a big question because yeah, they are unconscious and there are assessments with that. That yeah, it would be helpful to also go over that with a therapist as well, just because if you know which schemas you have, it's almost like, okay, what do I do with that now? So yeah, a therapist could help you uncover some unconscious lenses.
Is there an online test that everyone could take?
There is. Yeah, I could give that to you, or
yeah, well, let's put it in the chat box before the end of this talk. Maybe at the end,
okay.
we'll share it with everyone, and I'll put it in the email. Great,
yeah.
Thank you. And so let's talk about anxiety and fear and how everybody who's home isolated managing some of this energy can look at it through the lens of the way you look at it. How does a therapist define these energies and see them and work with them with clients?
Yeah, well, I just want to do a disclaimer as well. Just this is a pandemic. This is something that no one was really prepared for, obviously. Just hit us. So everybody is experiencing something different. And yeah, this whole social isolation that brings about other issues as well. So yeah, I worked the last week with 20 plus clients and everyone had different types of issues. Some people, honestly not affected that much. A lot of my depressed clients where they don't go outdoors that much, aside from seeing me. So yeah, it didn't affect them as much. For other people, yeah, including myself, this has changed my entire life. So the first thing is just kind of normalizing that whatever you're going through, whatever emotions that you're experiencing, they are completely rational and logical. Right now, there's no such thing as an illogical emotion. They've all come from somewhere. And a lot of what is coming up, and this is interesting, it's actually bringing to light problems that have already existed that maybe we've pushed aside. So an example of this is if you had an issue with a spouse or a loved one, and now you're in captivity with them for 24 hours a day, you're probably going to bring to light a lot of issues that were already there. Or it could even go the other way. If there was deep-rooted loneliness and you kind of mask that doing other activities maybe, and now you're by yourself in a house and you're like, I wish I were with another human being right now. I wish I had somebody that was there for me, and yeah, at least we could talk about things. So yeah, it's bringing to light all different issues, and there's it's all normal.
And so, Dan, maybe you can define anxiety for us the way a therapist would define it.
Yeah, so anxiety, and we've got a little background noise. My cat's in the litter box right now, so put it on mute for a second.
It's all good.
These are part of the problems that come up with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anxiety is a weird word, first of all. Some people would say they don't have anxiety. Some people would say they have really high anxiety. They'd say they have it all the time. It all looks a little different. We cope with it a little differently. But I define anxiety as anything that's kind of a fear of a future outcome or uncertainty of a future outcome or result. And especially with the coronavirus, we don't know. Like we're all in a state of somewhat chronic anxiety because we don't know how this plays out. So yeah, that's just a loose definition.
And so when your clients come to you and they're like, Dan, I'm feeling super anxious, what do I do about it? When you work one-on-one with a client and this is coming up, like what is the process a therapist goes through to help somebody work through anxiety?
Yeah, well, at first we take a look at, is this acute anxiety, meaning this is just a one-off isolated incident, or is this bleeding into or chronic anxiety where there are traumas that are coming up? And a lot of matters like this, like the coronavirus, as I said, it's an acute example, but it bleeds into a lot of chronic issues. So we just start to be curious with it. And so we all have self-talk. I know we all know that. We all have different voices that come into our head. And a lot of the times we push out those voices, and some of those voices are voices of anxiety. And it's really important that we come alongside those voices and we befriend those voices rather than repress them or shut them out, because there is a reason that they're speaking. And if we do repress the voices, they manifest later, or they manifest in the body with certain traumas as well. So it's just being really curious and playful with the voices. It's being inquisitive and caring and compassionate, and developing that relationship with yourself and that voice can take a long time. It's a lifelong process. But yeah, I like to let's get to know what that voice is actually saying.
Yeah, and so before we started today, Dan, me and you talked about having the group actually doing some writing around what they're afraid of, what's causing some anxiety, to flush some of this out, because I feel like for most people it's this like this vague just feeling, and we worked on this last week if you were here, just this like matching the energy and the beliefs and the feelings of everyone around them, but not really, we don't necessarily have a sense of like, what am I actually afraid of? Like, what is the outcome I'm truly afraid of? Is it death? Is it getting sick? Is it being alone? Is it losing my job? Maybe if you're here, you haven't thought that all the way through. And so that uncertainty of what you're even afraid of is creating an anxiety. Rather than running from it or trying to get around it or meditate and avoid it. I thought today Dan could help us flush some of it out by writing some of it out.
Yeah, David, that's a great point. And we all cope with anxiety in a different way too. Some of us freak out a little bit when we feel anxiety. We don't know what we're thinking exactly. Some of us get numb. We just don't feel anything at all. Some of us go in avoidance mode and we start doing other things. That's more of me. I just start like doing everything else. So it's really important to name the fear. Fear only has place if it's not brought out into the light. So as we name the fear, that is a really good starting place. And often and it could be a relevant fear, often that fear might even pull in some deeper fears as well. And those will govern our life, whether we want them to or not, unless they're brought into the open.
So you're saying if we don't name the fear, it just kind of sits in a little bit in the back of our minds,
Yeah.
and it could, okay. If also, I know some of you probably have questions for Dan, and you could write them in the box, but we're going to have some time at the end for questions. So could we right now, Dan, do an exercise and have everyone write some of these out?
Yes, I would love
Okay.
that. So yeah, this is an interactive part, and I would love if everyone, so you can do it pen and paper. You could also do it in the chat box as well. Just start writing some of the fears if you wouldn't mind. There's also anonymity here because yeah, everyone is, we can't see the video, but I would love to do this just because it's an experience where we can see what we're all struggling with right now, and we can come together on those fears.
So would it just be an endless list, 3 to 5 of the big ones, whatever just comes up, just keep writing?
Yeah, so let's do just a list, and yeah, I'd say if there's more than 10, we'll cap it.
Okay.
And let's not make them long sentences so much, but more themes that are coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, write them in the box, write them down on paper, whatever you prefer. And while you all do that, we'll give you a few minutes to do that. Maybe Dan, you could share some of the fears that you've seen come out in your clients, like some examples that you've found to be pretty common.
Yeah, and I'll just start with myself first.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I've really only reflected on this maybe even yesterday. I was busy the whole week, so I haven't had a ton of time to reflect. But initially, when I heard about the virus and what was happening, my first thought was I go to coffee shops all the time. I have tons of friends who are in the service industry, even the entertainment industry, and those have been crippled. I'm just thinking, okay, I think this started about 10 days ago, which is fortunate. It's not at the end of a month, but I was thinking, okay, at the end of the month, are people even going to be able to pay rent? Yeah, what's going to happen there? And I have worked with the homeless population, and yeah, that's my thought too. Like, what is this economically going to do? And then, yeah, it went personal too of, yeah, what happens with my job? All my stuff is in person. Well, about 90%. So yeah, there were a lot of fears that came up for me. I was thinking of people, even with autoimmune diseases, just because yeah, I would say I'm fairly healthy, and if I contracted it, maybe not the biggest deal, but I know some people, if they contracted it, that I don't know, I don't want to think about that, but that's something that came up for me.
And Dan, as you share that, and I'm just reading some comments, scarcity, fear of losing your parents, losing loved ones, not having money, um, yeah, dying. Someone said Trump leaving office, not being able to get healthy food. So I see a theme that maybe we could talk about for a moment, which no matter what anyone is writing in the box, I see the same theme, which is the fear of losing something or someone, losing money, losing a loved one, losing a job, or even dying, losing life. So
Yeah.
that's, I kind of see that theme forming. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the psychology of dealing with the fear of losing something and or actually losing something.
Yeah. So first, I just want to say all those fears, the fear of loss is so relevant. Yeah. And I know some people would say, oh, yeah, don't think about that. Or no, like that, especially during this time, it is relevant. And that the best we can do with that is connection. Because if we're fearing about another family member, likely they're fearing themselves too, or they're fearing for others. And yeah, I don't want to put a silver lining on this at all. However, this can be a time for us to come together and to reach out to people, even people that perhaps we might have more of an estranged relationship with, and just check in with them. Yeah, so when it comes to fear of loss, I just I don't like to BS anyone. It's just a really tough issue, and the best we can do is start to reach out and connect. And I think if anything, this virus is showing us that a lot of us haven't really taken the time to connect with people, like genuinely connect with people, deeply connect with people in a long time. And it's causing a lot of us to slow down and really think about the state of other people.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And maybe even reflecting, do I have compassion?
Yeah,
Do I care? Or who do I actually really care about when, right? When moments like these happen, who is coming up in my awareness that I really care about, that I'm worried about? And then also gratitude. When we lose something or we think about losing something or someone, there's this feeling of gratitude for having them in the first place. Or if you've ever lost someone who's passed away, then there's this feeling of gratitude for having had them even in the
Yeah.
loss.
yeah. And I want to point out, yeah, I love so many of these comments. Watching third world or poor nations suffer. I mean, it's interesting in our nation, our suffering is us going to Costco and getting gigantic carts of groceries to take back to our homes to kind of hoard. I'm not making, well, I'm making a little light of that, but it's that's our state, where other places they genuinely don't have food. And then yeah, there are two, and this has struck me as well. Inability to help others in need. And yeah, maybe it's a reflection on us, where we want to help other people and we're not maybe in the emotional state to help other people. We're not in the financial state to help other people. We're kind of just looking inwards for survival, which is so true. But yeah,
There's almost a little bit of grieving in that, Dan. Like
yeah,
even when you say it, there feels like in real time, there's just like this mass
yeah,
human grieving happening.
yeah. And this goes back to, I would say, what perhaps our souls have always been communicating to us on some level. And once again, it's brought to light more. So even let's say we're not physically able to help others. Maybe that wasn't as present for us before, but now it's been brought to light, where our hearts do have that compassion. We want to help others and we can't, for whatever reasons. So yeah, with that comes anxiety. And for some of us, genuinely, we are not in a position to help others and we can't be. And for others of us, it's a reflective process of, maybe I do need to put myself in a better state to help other people. Maybe I do need to cleanse my mind, or maybe I did need to rebalance my finances so I wasn't spending frivolously and I could help someone who was in need right now. So yeah, within times of desperation, that's when we learn the most about ourselves and when we can create character change. So that's also a way to redirect that anxious energy. Um, yeah.
Oprah does this thing where she's like, wait, moment. Like, I forget what she calls it. But like, so you said in times of desperation, that's when we really have the opportunity to look inside and shift something inside of ourselves, essentially, right?
Yeah, well, and the converse is true. In times of prosperity, that's when we become weak, when we don't really learn as much about ourselves. We see a lot of, throughout history, a lot of innovation from humans when there aren't many resources available and you have to start coming up with new ways. It might be to redo your business. It might be ways to redo your family life. You might have to rethink the way that you've known to love a spouse. Yeah, this is a time where you can kind of start to draw in that energy, especially in isolation, and start to reformulate a lot of the ways you think about life and relationships.
And someone just wrote fear of death when you realize you haven't fully lived. That's a big one. That's a big one. And fear of responsibility for somebody else's illness or death. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a second writing exercise just growing out of this. If we could do, Dan, I think it would be great if what if everybody just wrote out what they would like to change about their lives if you come out the other side of this.
Yeah.
What would you like to do different that maybe you didn't do or
Yeah.
haven't done so well up to now? Or can you, something along those lines, Dan?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll do an exercise with that later on as well. But let's tweak that, because that can be a very large question that we might need to meditate on for a while. So let's do the converse and think of a specific fear that you have, or a specific anxiety. Generally, the people who progress the most in life use whatever pain that they have. So it can be the most deep-rooted fear, and they transform themselves within that to transmit healing to the world in some way. And that usually comes from a place of fear. So as a friend Scott says, like what kryptonite can almost be like your superpower. So start to know what is a primary fear that you're dealing with, and then we can start to brainstorm from there how we want to heal that into something that can benefit you and those around you.
So for example, one of the common responses we got was fear of somebody I love getting sick or dying. So can we unpackage that one a little bit?
Yeah.
So I have parents who are older, or a cousin who has respiratory issues. We're separated, we're isolated. I can't help them physically in any way. I have this feeling of I can't do anything, and I'm kind of grieving that something might happen. Right? I think most of us are feeling that in some way. So we have this feeling. Where do we go with this feeling?
Yeah. So I would say first, just be curious with it. Don't judge the feeling. The feeling comes from a good place. And just be curious with that feeling and see the validity of it, see where it's coming from. And once again, you want to become friends with it in a way, because if we just kind of do a quick, okay, let's heal this, it's one of those short-term things that doesn't have sustainability. So we want to give that fear a voice, and also note where does it come from. A lot of our fears, so let's say that I have a fear of not being able to take care of a loved one. Maybe look in your past and see, has there been a time where a loved one has passed away and you've been unable to do anything? And maybe this isn't even in your life. This could be an example that your parents have set. And so anxiety is a process that is transmitted generationally. That's how anxiety is passed down. So a lot of the times, almost all anxiety is inherited from parents. So taking a look at our parents' example and how did they deal with things, and also seeing, am I dealing with things in the same way, or am I doing the exact opposite, like we spoke about at the beginning of the episode? Am I doing the exact opposite, but it's still running off the same fear pattern?
So am I doing the same thing? This is a great question for everyone to ask themselves. So am I doing the same thing as my parents? Am I behaving the same way, or am I doing the opposite as a reaction to them? So if parents were really controlling and secure obsessed, am I also controlling and security obsessed, or am I being a total rebel and being almost unsafe to kind of push back on them?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the same fear is still running that neural pathway. It's kind of similar to I know finances are a big issue right now. So it's like the person who they watch their parents struggle with money so much, And some people go the same way. They have limiting beliefs. They struggle with money and they kind of just adopt the same principles. Other people go the opposite way and they're like, I'm never going to be put in a financial situation again. So they make their life about making money, which is actually the same issue. It's still anxiety with financial security. It's the same anxiety. It just manifests in a different way. And someone can run their whole life off of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Just as you're talking, Dan, I'm like, where do I do those things? Anyone else have that thought? And so, can we do a meditation and you can guide us on working through some of this, or whatever it is you feel is most necessary for everyone?
Yeah, I would love to. So yeah, let's first, if you have a pen and paper next to you, and if you don't, not the biggest deal in the world, you can just think this. But I want you to write down the theme that we were talking about with the fear. And don't just put fear or anxiety there. That's not very helpful. It's always helpful. The more you can define things, the better it is. And the easier it will be to heal because you can actually identify a target. So just write down the theme that's coming up. Try to make it one word or a couple words, not a whole sentence of things. And then once you have that, I want you to, and we're going to do 3 parts to the first part of this, and then I'll lead you through the meditative part. So the first part of this will just be what feelings or core emotions come up when you think about this fear. And that will be the start to this. And it's a simple question. A lot of people might think of sentences right now. That'd be very common. I want you to think of one word. Emotions are always one word. A lot of our brains go crazy when it comes to emotions, but it might be anxiety. It could be inferiority, helplessness, sadness, anger, frustration, something like that. Yeah, someone had vulnerability there. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think this is a very vulnerable time. So, yeah.
Loneliness.
Loneliness. Yeah, yeah. This is a time, even if you're in a household with a lot of people, this can feel like the most lonely time as well. Insecurity. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So yeah, once you have the feelings, we'll go to thought patterns. And the thought patterns usually will align with the feelings that you listed. So if it's loneliness, what's the thought behind that? Loneliness that I'll die alone, loneliness in that nobody really loves me. And we're not testing the validity of these thoughts. This is just a free flow exercise of what thoughts come up when we think about these feelings. So I'll give you a few minutes for that, or a few moments.
So first one is the feeling. Second part is the thoughts that arise.
Yeah, when it comes to this specific fear or anxiety. Yeah, losing freedom to move around. Yeah, I'll die alone without love. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, the ability to not being able to regroup. I mean, this time brings about, maybe even thoughts. I mean, my thought instantly went to, okay, is this triggering a recession or depression in our country, and what will the ramifications of that look like? And a lot of you, I'm guessing a lot of your audience might now have kids that have come into the house. They're not at school anymore, and it's like, yeah, what's going to happen to your kids? And yeah. Okay. And yeah, another fear could even be, what do things look like after this? That might be scary, and we don't know that yet. Okay. And then the last part of this part of the exercise will be actions. And this this will be a little tricky at first because most of these things are unconscious. But what actions are we taking to support this feeling and these thoughts? So what actions have we taken? And it could be within, maybe even look right before the coronavirus, if the virus has brought up fears that have always been there. So let's say that it is fear of financial security. Were there actions that we were taking before that aided to those fears? Maybe it was spending too much money in different places. Maybe it was not growing your business or brand, or even education, maybe stopping that when you could have kept something going there. And also, yeah, it's not just what actions have you taken, but what actions have you not taken as well. And I'll say that this is usually the hardest of these three, because a lot of this rests in the unconscious. It could even be activities that, and I'm good at this, activities that we do to distract ourselves from doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we say, oh yeah, I'm being productive in this area, and we're avoiding the actual area that needs help. And sometimes the productive areas can be good. We might be hanging out with friends as opposed to connecting with our loved ones. And this time is bringing about that pain of, wow, I haven't connected to loved ones in a long time because I'm so busy doing all this other stuff. So that's an example of an action that we're taking. I'll give another couple moments with that. And yeah, so if you have a piece of paper right now, I would love for you to just fold that up. And we're not going to burn it yet. No, you can do whatever you want with that. But yeah, fold it up, fold it up, fold it up, and put it to the side for a moment. And you can choose what you're going to do with that paper later. But that paper represents your past and past behaviors, past habits, past thoughts. And now, once you've done that, I want you to, everybody with me, close your eyes and just keep your eyes closed right now and just breathe in and breathe out really deep, and just kind of notice, what's happening with your body, and slow things down for a bit, because I know we've just been through a lot right now. And just breathe in and out. And I want you to open your heart to a future. And the future being what things could look like. So I want you don't have to have all the answers right now, but I just want you to open your heart and meditate on when that problem that you listed is completely resolved, how will you feel? And you don't have to know how it's going to look. You don't have to know the steps that you're going to take to get there, but just know that that problem has been resolved. You have conquered it. It is done. It is finished. And just breathe in and out that reality, that relief that you have finished it and you have conquered that problem. It is now resolved. And still with your eyes closed, I want you to note what sensations come up in your body. Is there an expansion in the chest? Is there a change in the posture? Just start to note what it feels like as you have accomplished this, as you've finished this, as the problem is now resolved. And I want you to think of what feelings now come up with that. And some people even think about colors that come up or sensations that they didn't know existed within them. But just let that feeling resonate throughout your body and know and hold on to what this feeling feels like, in that the problem is resolved and it is taken care of. And once again, you don't need to know all the answers. And breathe in and out. And you can be as loud as you want here with your breathing. And when you're ready, return to the room, and you can open your eyes when you're ready. And yeah, I would love if some people could even write in maybe different sensations that they experienced. Maybe, yeah, different, could be a change in the body posture. I don't know if David, you felt anything or noticed
Oh
anything.
yeah, big time. It was beautiful just going to the other side of the quote unquote problem or fear and letting my body actually feel the safety of the solution. And it's almost like then I could like look back and
Yeah,
reverse engineer it a little bit.
exactly.
This is where I'm going, and this is why I'm feeling the pain that I'm feeling, because there's this growth happening from here to there, and it's not purposeless, and it's not made to make me suffer and punish me. It's a
Yeah,
path. It's
yeah.
a path. But if you don't feel like you know where your path is leading, then you just have this anxiety.
Yes. Oh, that's great. And yeah, a lot of you, chest tightening, ease, the feeling of pink or the color pink, expansion, ease, peace, elevation, light, airiness, freedom, security. Yellow is often a very common color that comes up with this.
Hmm.
Relief, smiling, ecstatic, softer, joy, cozy, secure. I love these words. Empowerment, pain in my side. Oh, it's going to make me cry right now. Pain in my
Mm.
side, starting to ease. Confident.
How many of you have all cried since you've been in this session? I think Dan has a talent of bringing that out. Yeah. There's a lot of emotion on the planet, and I think that we've been avoiding it as a species and avoiding it as individuals, just overriding by overdoing. And
Yeah,
now all of a sudden we're isolated and alone, and we have time and reflecting, and there's all this emotion that's ready to just like a dam breaking, just ready to come out.
yeah. And it's so yeah, I first want to thank you for yeah, everyone like being able to be vulnerable with that process. Freedom, yeah. And yeah, so you know that whenever we do anything different in life, there's always a release of energy. We always want to channel that motivation. And it does come from a feeling. And as you can channel, so this is your authentic feeling of empowerment, and you can channel this feeling at any time. And I highly recommend, just like any meditation is a practice, this is a practice that you can put in your life as many times as you want throughout the day. The more that you practice this, the less time it will take to channel this feeling and to jumpstart. Um, and I know a lot of you right now, and this is what happens when I do it. I start to go into, okay, I have this feeling. Now I have the energy to be able to do some stuff. And I get that we're all quarantined right now for the most part, unless you're a complete rebel. Um, but yeah, you can start to channel this feeling into, okay, what do I want to do with that energy now that that energy has been released? Um, yeah.
What actions while my energy level is higher and I feel this enthusiasm, like what actions can I start to take to bring this into form?
Yeah, and it could even be a brainstorm. A lot of the times, a lot of the times, it's more just the feeling of, and I get this all the time from clients. It's like, I really want to clean my bathroom right now, and what's happening is that even something seemingly inconsequential like the bathroom, which was an unconscious thing, there's this energy of that isn't congruent with my life energy flow right now. The state that that bathroom is in doesn't reflect who I am. And as you start to change parts of your environment, that will change you inside as well.
Mm.
That's how the environment that we're around does reflect our internal state. So yeah, you might even notice, oh my gosh, I really want to do some chores right now.
I get that sometimes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And somebody asked if you could just outline the process. So can you just go over the three parts of the writing and then the meditation, just so if anyone wants to write it down,
Yeah.
or just reiterate it for them?
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. It's just whatever the issue is. And yeah, a lot of my clients will say, okay, I want to target this issue today. So you'll start to think of different issues that come up. So whatever anxiety or fear, whatever issue comes up, just write that down. And then it's the three things are just first your feelings with it, the feelings associated with it. And as time goes on, you'll actually be able to more clearly articulate how you feel about this. You'll come up with a lot more feeling words. Actually, I have a chart right here with these are lots of feeling words. A lot of people don't realize how many feelings we have.
That's really helpful. Is there somewhere they can get that online,
Yeah,
or just Google feeling chart?
yeah, I can send a link to it.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So yeah, we often don't realize the feelings we have. So first feelings, and then the thoughts associated with those feelings. And then this is going to be one that evolves over time, actions that we have that support those thoughts and feelings. And the actions, they keep everything on a loop. And you might notice I'm doing this motion. It makes us feel like we're going crazy a little bit because we're on this feedback loop of here are the feelings that happen, here are the thoughts that happen, and then we do the actions that support the feelings, and then it just goes in a loop. So this could even be, let's say we want to lose weight and we have these negative thoughts, and then we actually take the action. Sometimes we might actually go to the gym or we work out, but we still have a negative feeling associated with it. It will just drive us so that we actually don't like working out, and over time we feel exhausted with this and it feels like a never-ending chore. We want to change the emotional state so that there's more energy released. So you have different emotions with the idea of working out or feeling good about yourself or even self-image. That will change your thought patterns, and you might maybe it's not you going to the gym, maybe it's you going for a jog outside or something else, some other way of working out, and then you'll start to reprogram your feelings with, good job today, I felt good about myself today with that. So that will run on a different neural loop. And then yeah, so once you have those three feelings, thoughts, actions, then it's just how will you feel when this problem is resolved? Yeah. And I did this exercise. This is an adaptation from Joe Dispenza. And yeah, I like a lot of his stuff. So yeah, I just want to call that out.
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
And so we're going to just take a few minutes for questions. So if anyone has a question for Dan, I also put his website, which is dangerous.
Yo,
I fixed it. It's Dan. Yeah, sorry, I put the right one the second time. You might get a few phone calls. How do you act on being loved? What do you mean by that?
yeah, I need somebody to
You need more context. What maybe I can also ask you a question, Dan.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's going to be home for the next few weeks and who knows how long quarantined, and they're having bouts of fear and anxiety, kind of waves that come and go. What's a good way that they can just continuously flush out that emotion and not just get stuck in it? Because what I've noticed happen is it's like you read the news or you get a message and then you just like you sit in something for hours, if not days.
Yeah.
How would a therapist help somebody just like flush out the emotion, like almost like a duck just like flapping its wings? Not everything needs to be solved and fixed and understood, right? Sometimes just the emotion needs to be moved. Is there a technique for that?
Yeah. I mean, just to speak to that, we are way too connected with social media, and yeah, we don't want to just sit around all day scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, or I don't know what the youngins use these days, TikTok. I don't know.
Hmm.
And we don't want to just inundate our minds with that, because a lot of it is going to be fairly negative. So I would say first step is to detach yourself. You want to be informed of the news, obviously. We need to be informed of the news, and we want to be connected with loved ones. But this is actually a great time to have changes in our life. I know a lot of us say, oh, everyone's like, this was the worst timing that this could have happened. There's going to be no good timing for this. However, I know a lot of us, myself included, have been on the go, go, go. And I personally need a time to stop, to slow down, to just really rethink my life, my priorities. I'm not a fan of quick fixes. I'm a fan of, let's go back to the drawing board and ask the tough questions. So it might start to be asking some of the more difficult questions. Um, and I would say I'm a huge fan of writing things out. So anything that is external, like getting what's in here out there. I know I'm also a physical person, but I can't do as many sports, so that's tough for me. But any way that you can express it through art. So it could even be, if you have this fear and you want to do some art around it,
Mm.
that'd be so great. I know a lot of people that do way like awesome creative pieces. I had a client where uh, this might sound a little crazy for some of you, but he took his pill bottles and he made a tapestry. He had so many pill bottles. He made this tapestry that is absolutely beautiful. Um,
Wow.
and he glued them all to this gigantic board, and it's like this beautiful like orange and white capped display of his disorders like on a wall. And I'm just like, that, yeah, he took something that was a pain point for him, externalized it into creative piece, that's on display. Like he's released a lot of the fear from it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So yeah,
Let's field one more question
yeah.
before we go.
But
There's a
let's
few.
do the goals for yourself,
Oh,
and
thank you. Let's do that. Yes.
yeah, that's okay. So yeah, we have let me read the question from Molly. How do you balance between the want to set goals for yourself and overwhelming yourself with things to do? And I think we can all relate to this on some level. We all want to accomplish a lot, and then at the same time that can get overwhelming. I'm guilty of but when I have anxiety over something, I apply a lot of energy to it, and then I can apply no energy to it after that. So the way I found most effective is to write out. Um, you can write out all the goals you want, and choose one. Choose the most important one, because we often mask the most important goal with all these sub goals, and we give energy to that. And yeah, I think there's a book on, like, you pick the one thing that's the most
Mhm.
important, and what you want to do from there is you want to apply consistent small steps of energy towards that goal. And because a lot of people are very all or nothing. It's like, okay, I want to get in shape, and they have the goal of running a marathon. Don't do that. Start with, can you take a lap around your neighborhood? Just start really small. And if that goal is too hard, of taking a lap around your neighborhood, and that might be for some people, the first step might be taking a step outside. And I'm not even kidding about that. Even before that, if that step is too tough, it might be, I need to purchase walking shoes or running shoes. We break things down into the very smallest denominator that we can work off of. Once we have the smallest common denominator that we can just apply, then we take one step in the right direction. And it's small, consistent steps over time. That will be the best way so that something isn't overwhelming. And you want to look at yourself as a guide and say, and this is how you healthily challenge yourself. It's, can I do better than I did last week? So something really small like that. You take a look at what you did last week and it's like, can I add a little to this? And if you can't, that's okay too. I work with a lot of clients where they have amazing growth the first couple weeks, but at that rate, that's unsustainable. And we just need to do stability and maintenance mode at that point. So it's going to be small, consistent steps over time. And that will always beat out trying to just attack something. Because I know we all have these ideas of we just need to attack it, like apply so much energy that it will get destroyed and we get destroyed in the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for that. So is everybody writing their goal? The goal, the one that comes up, it seems like, Dan, it's related to the fear. Like the goal is related to the fear.
Yeah. And likely, and I'm not saying always, but if the goal isn't tapping into that fear, it might not be the right goal. So I'm a big fan of poking around, like coming alongside. This is the fear right here. Like, how's it going? Yeah, just taking a look at the fear. And because if we don't address some of the core fears, they will govern our entire lives. And we will build an entire life based on not confronting the thing that haunts us. And some of us can be really successful at that. And at the same time, our emotional and spiritual well-being get compromised in that process.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dan. And woo, we're about out of time here, everyone.
Wow.
Let me just say a couple things. One, thank you to Dan for coming and sharing so much incredible wisdom. I think we all, if you have never seen a therapist, you probably have that quiet feeling inside that you want to see one. And I think a lot of people have shame around going to a therapist because they think it means that there's something wrong with them, which isn't the case at all. I don't see it that way. And so I know that a lot of people are in that arena or they can't afford it. And so I really wanted to bring you in today to talk to everyone so they can get a sense of what it's like to be with a therapist and notice that it's a safe space. And it's not just the person looking at you going, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I do want to, I'll speak to that. First off, I believe that a lot of people, I believe a lot of healthcare plans are now including therapy as a response to the coronavirus. I've seen that on a lot of therapist message boards now. So it ideally, if you do have health insurance, I believe you can get therapy now. And a lot of, I believe it's also even compliant to do it through FaceTime now. I think they're releasing a lot of the restrictions on therapy, which is really
beautiful.
So I would first check in with your healthcare provider, and then a lot of therapists can write super bills as well. And that's just something where you can submit it to your healthcare provider. So there are more options than you'd think. It's not that you can't get good help. It is out there. And then here's also a misconception. Once you sign up for therapy, and this is weird that a therapist says this, you don't have to stay with that therapist. If a third of your progress will be from the bond that you feel with the therapist over time. So if you're not feeling the therapist and you are genuinely not connecting, and they're not listening to you, and it could totally happen. You don't have to go with that therapist. You see them once, and I know that can be a financial investment, but you want to find the right therapist. So that
Yeah.
might mean you shop around a little bit, and you want somebody at the same time who challenges you in a healthy way. So you want to find the balance of comfort and challenge. A lot of therapists might not be equipped to challenge you. It's completely possible. So you need to weigh that. And then some you won't feel comfortable. So if you can comfortably be put out of your comfort zone, that will be the best way to get a therapist or the right fit.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it. And just quick announcement. The Zoom maxed out again today, even though I upgraded it. Not sure what happened. So if you have friends that wanted to come and didn't make it, I will email this out and share it. You can watch it again if you missed anything or want to do it again. And then quick announcement, the intuitive training program I start once every 2 years starts this Tuesday. You can get info for that on energymattersacademy.com. I put Dan's website in the chat box, but it's just danloneytherapy.com. I'll put it in an email with the replay. So thank you all so much. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I know a lot of people ask this. I'm not allowed to do telehealth outside of California, of which I'm based. So I just want to put that out there because I get that question.
That's really good to know. Thank you, Dan. And how about I just unmute everyone so you could say bye on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Have an amazing day.
Too.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Dan. That was really great, buddy. Really, really appreciate it. And if those of you, as you're leaving, if you want to hang with Dan more, email me, let me know. Maybe we could bring him back and do some more events or something regularly, like some kind of group work with him where he uses his amazing therapy techniques. I think that would be really cool. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop recording. Take care.